Bottle digging is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're gonna get. Today's adventure brings me to Ronceverte, West Virginia. This is the original Coca-Cola plant. I don't know why they have these things up here. It's like, does that mean they're getting ready to tear it down or something? They certainly did something around here. Could it be archaeology work? If so, that would be very strange. There's a bunch of broken glass right there, though. That is very strange in itself. Why would they dump bottles from the 40s and 50s right there in front of their building? I have no idea. But there happens to be a dump right across the street. I actually saw this 25 years ago. Somebody pointed out the fact that they dumped thousands of Coke bottles right across the street from the Coke plant. But they're all broken. Even if you dig 2 or 3 feet deep. They just planted new grass here probably 2 weeks ago. I don't know what they were doing here. Are they trying to restore this place? Well, I might as well get my probe and see if I can find a spot that feels good over here. Okay, just on down the line a little bit. There's obviously been some digging going on over here. But it looks like they only dug 6 inches. Maybe they gave up real quick because they never find anything intact. I was told 25 years ago that they don't ever find anything here. But why would they dig then? I don't know if they've ever dug 3 feet deep, but I just probed it. And I felt glass continual crunching all the way from the surface to at least 3 feet deep. There's gotta be at least a few intact bottles here. Not that these are very valuable. Hollow skirts from the 40s and 50s are definitely not that good, but I think we will dig a hole anyway. Wait, there's one right there. It's almost intact. It's an unusual green soda. Property of Clifton Forge, Virginia. Yeah, there's a lot of Clifton Forge bottles in this town. Even going back to the early 1900s. Anyway, I think I'll open up a hole and see what's down there. Well, it seems like it's all giblets. Tiny little pieces. But I thought they would have to start by throwing it down the bank right here. And over time, when things it would build up to here, then it would go out to here. So it should get a year newer every foot this way. Something like that. So I'm digging here because I figured it would be the oldest. I don't know if that's the right strategy or not because everything's broken over here. Let's keep on going and see what's down there. Okay, we got a Ronceverte Christmas Coke. I think that's about the oldest bottle that could be in here because that's probably about a 1932. I don't know. What is the date? I think that's a 35 on there. Anyway. Also, I found a map, Scott, West Virginia. Okay, this one looks like it might be intact. Well, it's the closest to intact so far anyway. And it is a Christmas Coke. And it is from Ronceverte. Too bad. Hasn't got any caseware on the high points either, so that would have been a nice one. Okay, is this one intact? Nope. Okay, that looks like an intact one. Could it be? Let's see. It's so incredibly close. But nope. Not a perfect one. But closest one to a perfect one, and it's a Christmas Coke. And it is from Ronceverte. So I might bring this one back and saw it off right there and glue a new crown top onto it. Okay, I think we got one in this hole right here. Possibly. Yes, and there's the beautiful one. Wait, no. It's just a CNC. I thought it was that kind from Fayette. Let's see. What town was that? Anyway. What is this? There's an R on the bottom. I guess that stands for Ronceverte. I don't know, but it is something to put in the maybe pile. How about this one? Nope, it's also broken. Well, we're 3 feet deep and we found 1,000 broken ones and 0 intact. So that is worse than 99.9% broken. Well, here's a Parkersburg, West Virginia Christmas Coke. Well, almost intact anyway. That's the only piece of an ACL soda I found out of 1,000 bottles. I think I'll recognize it, but not sure. But that's it. 1,000 broken bottles and not one whole one. So let's try another spot. Okay, the last piece I looked at happens to be November 16th, 1915, otherwise known as a Thanksgiving Coke. Some people call them that anyway, but can't see what town was on the bottom. But anyway, I brought all these shards home to make various things out of and repair some of them. So let's go on to an older spot. Okay, we're about a quarter of a mile downstream. I remember this is where the town dump was, and I see a fresh dirt alert, but I think it's a little too high up the bank to actually be producing any bottles because they would be down there, but we might as well check it out just in case. Well, they got a pretty big hole going right over here, but either this isn't quite far enough down the river, or it's just down the bank slightly farther. I don't know, but I mean, it's been 17 years since I've been here, so, and of course I have been to 300 towns in my life, so it's kind of hard to keep track of everything. Wow, this is an obvious old house site, and they just put some hay down to cause the grass to grow. So that means they might have just torn this down a month ago. So I think it's time to look for some privies. I've never found a privy in this town before, so hopefully it'll be the first. The ground looks pretty dry actually. Well, not too dry, but anyway. There's a small creek right behind this house. You know what that means. Especially since it's already 7:10 at night. We've only got about 15 minutes of light left. So, I'm going to check this out. It's an awful tiny creek, but the fact that it was in somebody's backyard means that probably nobody has walked it. Except for the people that live here. If they weren't interested in bottles, then they probably left them. Well, they threw a bunch of cement and rocks down here, so that's not good, because antique bottles will be underneath those. Okay, this is a true backyard right here, but I am not seeing any signs of glass at all. So, well, they probably just threw it out the front door on the riverbank, so maybe we should check back there. Well, undoubtedly somebody would have checked this area already. I forget what it means when you see these in a house lot. Does that mean that's where the privy is? I don't know, but it means something. Something to do with bottles. That's a nice looking creek right there. Okay, undoubtedly this has been searched before by somebody. Probably a dozen people. Because this is the home of one of the rare Pepsis. There's an amber Pepsi from 1911 or 12 over here. It's worth $800. But of course, it's not about the money. Only if I find two of them. The first one's going in my collection. But you never know. Even if 100 people looked here, there's still going to be something that turns up eventually. Well, there's my van down the line. But can we find anything, even a piece of glass that's old in here? Probably not. Well, there's a tiny shard. It's emerald green, so that means it's probably from the 30s or newer. Every single day of every year there's less treasure in the ground because there's always going to be somebody in America digging for bottles or creek walking. Some days, possibly as many as 100 people. I mean, if there's just 2 people looking on a sunny Saturday in each state, that's 100 people a day looking for bottles. It looks like somebody dumped down here a lot of bricks. There's a nice debossed one right there. Anyway, a lot of bottles will end up with bricks, but I don't see any this time. This is a nice lawn. It could be a house site or 2 right here. Short ones and a long one over there. So, should we look for previews here? Subscribe, it's a free service. Don't you want to see what else I find?